special. It's not so much what we have in this life that matters. It's what we do with what we have. The alphabet is fine, but it's what we do with it that matters most. Making words like friend and love. That's what really matters.
My guest flew all the way from Tahiti to be here tonight, which sets some kind of record, I think. I'm very honored to have him here. You have caught glimpses of him in the past as Stanley Kowalski in Streetcar Named Desire, Zapata in Viva Zapata, Mark Antony in Julius Caesar, Terry Malloy in On the Waterfront, Vito Corleone in The Godfather, and Paul in Last Tango in Paris. He despises superlatives. He's often been called the best actor in America or in the world, but I want to downplay that tonight because I want him to be happy. Will you welcome, please, Mr. Marlon Brando. I guess, how are you would be as good as anything.
I'm kind of weary.
Are you wiped out from the jet trip?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. I appreciate the amount of miles you have been covering to get here, and you were delayed, and it was a ghastly story, but it's nice of you to come and put up with it all. I'm so self-conscious. I don't know what to do, because we spoke on the phone for over 6 hours, and a lot of it was about what neither of us can stand about this kind of program. To the point where now I don't know how to avoid all that stuff. Will you help me as we move along?
Well, I think that I had a special treat because you allowed me to come into your life, and Dick described his background as a young boy in Nebraska, which I think would be worth telling for about 20 minutes. You mind if I go into all that?
I'd love it. I've suddenly forgotten it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you seen any good movies lately?
Super Rich Shadow?
Oh, that's supposed to be in my dressing room.
Oh.
No, that's part of the. That's merely part of the commercial. Where was I? Do you go to the movies? Come to think of it.
Once in a while.
Yeah. I'll tell you what happened. We talked on the phone, and at one point in the conversation, you reeled off about 7 or 8 things that you had observed about me watching the show, about how I sometimes don't like people and pretend that I do, and vice versa, and about a dozen more, and they were so uncanny and on the nose that I decided I could never work again. And now I feel it. Would you like a glass of water?
A bug just flew out of my glass.
I know it. I'm terribly embarrassed. As he started to pour the water, a bug flew out. Probably a critic. Anyway. Let me ask you an obligatory question, and we can get that out of the way right now. And if at any time I get into things that you don't want to talk about, give me a signal, puff out your cheeks.
Throw the picture at you.
That'd be fine. If you had the Academy Awards night to do over again, would you do any of that differently?
Well, I don't think so, no. I felt that that there was an opportunity for, since the American Indian hasn't been able to hear his voice heard, or have his voice heard anywhere in the history of the United States. I felt that it was a marvelous opportunity for an Indian to be able to voice his opinion to 85 million people. I guess that was the number.
Hello, my name is Sasheen Littlefeather. I'm Apache, and I'm president of the National Native American Affirmative Image Committee. I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening, and he has asked me to tell you in a very long speech, which I cannot share with you presently because of time, but I will be glad to share with the press afterwards, that he very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. And the reasons for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry, and on television in movie reruns, and also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee. I beg at this time that I have not intruded upon this evening, and that we will, in the future, our hearts and our understandings will meet with love and generosity. Thank you on behalf of Marlon Brando.
And I felt that he had a right to, in view of what Hollywood has done to him. And I was embarrassed for Sasheen. She wasn't able to say what she intended to say. And I was distressed that people should have booed and whistled and stomped, even though perhaps it was directed at myself. They should have at least had the courtesy to listen to her. But I think she did very well, and I was very glad that she did have what opportunity she had to say what she did. And
why didn't you get to read your entire statement as you planned it?
Well, I think that they felt that it was inappropriate, and I actually don't know. I think they didn't want her there. They didn't want the evening interrupted with that particular note. And from their insular point of view, I felt that perhaps they had a point. But I don't think that people generally realize what the motion picture industry has done to the American Indian. As a matter of fact, all ethnic groups, all minorities, all non-whites. And people just simply don't realize. They just took it for granted that that's the way people are going to be presented, and these cliches were just going to be perpetuated. And so when someone makes a protest of some kind and says, no, please don't present the Chinese this way, or please, I mean, on this network every night, well, perhaps not every night, but you can see silly renditions of human behavior. The leering Filipino houseboy, the wily Japanese, or the kook or the gook, and the idiot black man, and the stupid Indian, and it just goes on and on and on. And people actually don't realize how deeply these people are injured by seeing themselves represented, not so much the adults because they're already inured to that kind of pain and pressure, but children, Indian children, seeing Indians represented as savage, as ugly, as nasty, vicious, treacherous, drunken. They grow up only with a negative image of themselves, and it lasts a lifetime.
Did you
Is that an answer to your question?
Yeah. Did you expect the kind of outrage that you got from people, I believe, well, that very night, Raquel Welch made a joke against you, saying that I hope the next person doesn't have a cause. Who's the who's the Western star who followed later? Steve McQueen. Clint Eastwood, yes, of course. I very seldom make mistakes. He did his version of a joke, and then John Wayne looked like he was about ready to get a posse together. He looked so sore. Did that surprise you, that they would be angered that you desecrated their cathedral?
I wasn't surprised, no. There were a number of people that felt that Sachin had not been welcomed and not been treated properly, and people that were sympathetic to what she was trying to say. And I received an awful lot of mail in support of that.
The booing made me sore.
Well, actually, I think the people were booing at me.
Yeah.
They were booing because they thought, well, this moment is sacrosanct, and you're ruining our fantasy with the intrusion of a little reality. And I suppose it was perhaps unkind of me to do that, but there was a larger issue, and it's an issue that nobody in the motion picture industry has ever addressed themselves to.
Why do you downgrade acting as a profession?
What?
I say, why do you downgrade acting as a profession over the years?
What makes you think I do?
Well, I've read it in the press. Saw it in black and white. I can't believe the press. I don't know what we can believe in this country. You know what I mean, though you've said over the years,
well,
it's not a fit profession for a man.
In an effort to help your ratings,
Don't worry about it.
I'll maybe say something. I think that we couldn't survive a second if we weren't able to act. That acting is a survival mechanism, and it's a social unguent, and it's a lubricant. And we act to save our lives, actually, every day. People lie constantly, every day, by not saying something that they think, or saying something that they don't think, or showing something that they don't feel, or trying to give the appearance of feeling something that they don't actually. I said that, didn't I?
Yeah, but that's not acting.
That is acting. That is
No, it
precise.
isn't.
Yes, it is.
But you know what I mean.
When you're
what you do on
frightened
the
or
screen,
when you're
you know-
nervous,
Huh?
when you're frightened and nervous in this chair, you're distressed or uncomfortable, or you're very angry,
Yeah.
and you know that that is not what is necessary to well, what cannot be shown here. You control your face. You're a highly controlled person, and
Really?
and you have to do that.
I see. But you know what I mean is, we got into this on the phone. You say that that's acting. That's not. I'm motivated at that moment to do that, and I can do it. And suppose there's a guy here that I think is a schmuck, is a bore, and you invite frankness, and I can act like he's interested for a time. I'm motivated by that. But if you wake me up at 9 or 8 the following morning and say, do that same performance before a camera, and then do it again and again, I can't. Some people can. Some people do it wonderfully, and you seem to do it better than almost anybody. And so there've got to be gradations.
It's a kind that don't belong no place at all. There's a kind of bird that don't have any legs, so it can't light on nothing. So it has to spend its whole life on its wings in the air. I seen one once. It died and fell to earth. and its body was light blue colored. And it was just as tiny as your little finger. And it was so light in the palm of your hand that it didn't weigh more than a feather. And its wings spread out that wide. And you could see right through them. That's why the hawks don't catch him. Because they don't see him. They don't see him way up in that high blue sky near the sun.
What about in gray weather?
Oh, they fly so high in gray weather, the hawks would get dizzy. See, these little birds don't have no legs at all, so they have to live their whole lives on the wing. And they sleep on the wind. That's what they do. They just spread the wings out and go to sleep on the wind. And they only light on this earth but one time. It's when they die.
I won't hear of the fact that what you do is no more than what I do.
Well, that isn't true. If you're working for an ad agency, some product, and you hate the guy that, the idea man, the boss, and you know that every time he comes in with some impossible notion, something that really makes you gag when you drive home on the freeway, you know damn well that you're not going to get a raise, or you're not going to get it shifted out of the position that you're in if you don't say, Leonard, I think that's terrific.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. And you even lean forward, put your elbows on to show enthusiasm, and you get a face for it, and you do it day after day after day in order to survive in your job.
But if you had to do the line, Leonard, I think that's terrific 6 times, and get something deeper and better into it time after time, that takes an actor.
What did you say?
I said, those are one-time things where you have an immediate motivation.
No, they're not one-time things because it's a daily procedure.
Yeah, but the dialogue changes all the time. But you're able to
The dialogue
take
changes, but the motivation doesn't.
Are you
The
saying that I
motivation-
could play any role you can play as well as you can?
Well, that might not be true, but I don't think that I could play some roles as well as you could play them.
Tonight, 6 Marlon Brando.